Hello, everyone. Definitely a very good evening. Thank you for taking the time today. Uh, as Elias said, Kamal Vyas, I'm an enterprise cloud architect. I'm part of the enterprise architecture team, which means I'm not part of any of the product or marketing or sales team like the other guys. So usually I don't talk much about NetApp products. The topic we want to cover today is what we internally in NetApp IT are doing about DevOps, how we are approaching it, what is our strategy, how we have built our DevOps platform, what are the goals and vision we have from this platform, and what are we trying to do. So I've been with NetApp for 14 plus years now. Last 5 years, it's all about cloud and DevOps. I lead the strategy for when it comes to which clouds we use, what type of applications we put on which type of cloud, what kind of user experience we want to give to our developers and application teams, and what would be in general our strategy in transforming our organization from a traditional IT company to a new age DevOps and digitally transformed company. So that's essentially my life for last few years. Yeah, I have a lot of slides. I think I like what Mary just said is speak up or ask questions as we go through it because it gets boring. Usually it's really good when it's in a room, but if this is a very broad topic and there's a lot of technologies and areas we would cover. So if you have any questions, definitely bring them up either in chat or unmute yourself. The more interactive the discussion, the better it flows, at least in my mind. So I think that's all, Elias, from my side. We can get started when you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready now, Kamal. Whenever you're ready, just go ahead and start with your presentation. Thank you.
Cool. All right, so let's get the level set, right? So I think old slide, a lot of people might have seen it, but number one reason, right, why you would want to do DevOps is speed, right? You want to increase the speed of software delivery in your organization. Also, not only just speed, right? You also want quality along with the speed. So if you go fast and you have a lot of errors and mistakes, that usually that is not solving the purpose what you're trying to do. So speed and quality is what essentially you are after when you do DevOps. It's all about how fast you can release code. Like DevOps is all about code, right? How fast you can release code in production. When I say code, it's about features and functionality. That's the essential value which the end users get, right? And business loves it. Now, business can deliver things much faster. It can make revenue much faster. It can get customer experience much faster. So business and developers, they both of them love the speed. But with speed, a lot of risk comes into play, right? Now you're going faster. You might have not planned things, or you might have missed some here and there, and you might cause impact. That's what operations don't like, right? So two sides of the coin. How do you make both of them happy? DevOps comes into play there. And what makes risk minimal in this is automation, right? So you might have heard DevOps is all about people, process, and technology, and I'm not going to talk about that. Those are still true, but what ultimately gets delivered in the end is your end-to-end automation of your software delivery lifecycle, right? So if you have the right people, process, tools, collaboration, they all come together and they would deliver an end-to-end pipeline in terms of automation, how your code can go from all the way from development to production in the least amount of time, with least defects, and automated end to end, right? So that's what ultimately gets delivered. And that also removes the risk element out of the speed, right? If it's automated, there's no human intervention. You have done enough QA and testing about your operations. Now you could remove the risk element out of it. So DevOps is all about those three things, right? Speed, quality, and automation. How fast you can go into production, how defect-free your releases are, and how automated your end-to-end software development lifecycle is. So that's the background, right? So, but idea is you really don't want to do DevOps without a strategy. And in IT, and I'm part of enterprise architecture team, everything for us starts with strategy. So where does why do we, so where does DevOps fit in our IT strategy, right? And this is a little bit of a precursor to say how we are approaching it. So if we looked at our application portfolio, we have about, I don't know, 300, 400 applications, and then a lot of what I call it crap applications, right? Like small applications here and there. But if I talk about only the applications, I can easily categorize them into two buckets. One is the applications which are used to run my business, and the applications which are used to transform my business. And how we classify that is, run the business apps are your common business processes, right? The things, the applications which help you close your books, report your finances, automate Salesforce, HR, and things like those, right? And these are common for all our companies, like a company A, company B would use email the same way, or payroll would be the same way, right? So idea over here is, or strategy over here is, make sure we're kind of simplifying this type of applications. We're not making them too complex. We're not customizing them. And ideally, in most cases, picking a SaaS provider and migrating those applications over there and consuming it, right? Here we are kind of the consumers. Ideally with no code or DevOps needed. Now, the second bucket of application, these are your strategic and innovative type application. This are unique to your business, and these help you gain strategic advantages over your customers or your competitors in terms of customer experience, or your product getting better, or your revenue getting higher. These type of applications, the strategy is, how can I get speed, right? Where I can deliver features and functionality at the pace at what my business needs. How can I get agility where I can quick to adopt new things, at the same time be able to deliver the core capability of the business? And how do I make sure the things which are needed are delivered at the speed what needed? I think we covered that. So here, the strategy for us is to build, right? So idea is you have full control of the stack. You are not depending on any of the cloud providers like SaaS providers, and you're able to deliver things at the speed you want it to deliver. So this is where all the modern technologies like containerization, microservices, or DevOps come into play, right? So this is the type of application where we are focusing in our IT strategy to do DevOps. So here consuming, and here we are building. So two ways to think about that. Other way to think about this is DevOps, and we will see through the slide deck, is quite an involved process, right? You really want to put the effort in terms of people, process, and technology and tools to make sure you are able to do DevOps. And the place where you want to put, ideally you want to do DevOps for all of them, right? But the idea is, if you are limited in terms of resources or money, these are the applications where you get the most value out of the investment you make, right? So that's another part of the strategy, is to say what applications make more sense for DevOps, and what are the other applications which we really don't want to do DevOps. So first step for us in strategy is get out of our bucket is, okay, these are the applications where we are not going to do DevOps. And then here's the applications we are going to do DevOps. And for that, we have built our DevOps platform, which we call Cloud One within NetApp IT. All right, so with that background, let's move forward. Other way to look at this is build versus buy, right? So here's the applications we are buying, which are SaaS, and here's the applications we are building on our Cloud One platform. So examples over here, email used to be on Exchange in data centers. Now it's kind of Office 365. We really don't have to worry about releasing code and features for that. DevOps for that would be done by Microsoft. Same thing over here. Problem change and incident management used to be Remedy or Tivoli's or whatever on-prem. Now they're all ServiceNow. So same over there. Or Salesforce would go into SAP and things like this. On the other side, on Cloud One, NetApp support side is a good example, right? We get about 500,000 customers every month, built perfectly with all the latest technologies what the Cloud One provides in terms of containerization, microservices, and DevOps. And here we control the entire stack. And if we have to make changes and releases and features available to our customers much faster, we can go at the speed at what business wants and optimize the stack as much as possible. So that goes into our buy platform, our build platform here, the Cloud One. So what is Cloud One platform, right? So if I go look at Cloud One platform from our perspective, the approach we have taken over here is of a service provider, right? So IT has transformed in NetApp in NetApp to be a service provider. So everything we want to deliver over here is as a service. So Cloud One is our shared self-service platform, which is not just used by one application, but all the applications and developers we have in our organization. It's a one-stop shop for all our services. So you can come to our Cloud One platform and you can consume either infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, container as a service, or DevOps as a service, right? So these are all fully managed services we provide to our customers. So they really don't have to get distracted or invest their time in any of these technologies. Those are provided by the platform to avoid all the distractions out of the developers and application owners' life. We started this journey about 5 years back. That's what I was saying. We started more from left to right. MJ, any questions on the chat? Sorry, just pause me if you see any coming over there. All right, so let's go. So yeah, so we started this 5 years ago. You can come and get infrastructure service, which will be VM, compute, or storage. You can bring your own containers, or you can get the entire DevOps services, which are all the CI/CD pipelines and everything from the platform. From last 18 months or so, we provide full developer experience out of this platform, and that's probably the focus of today's discussion, right? What and how we have built this component. If you look at from the architecture perspective, Cloud One is truly a multi-hybrid cloud platform. So we leverage most popular cloud providers. And also we have converted our internal cloud into private cloud, the data centers. So essentially, they also have the same look and feel and model of how Amazon and GCP's Azure would be working, or everything through APIs and software defined. One different here would be we use, irrespective of whichever cloud the workloads or applications gets placed on, the storage technology is always from NetApp. So we have full control of the data irrespective of the cloud where the application is running, and we use technologies like NetApp Cloud Volumes. In some cases, we still have NetApp private storage and Cloud Volumes on tap. That makes our data fabric layer. And essentially the idea is, if you have to move a workload from A cloud to B cloud, or if you have to have production on-prem and DR off-prem, the data fabric is the layer which helps us move all those, do all those data synchronization between different clouds. And from a technology perspective, we use private cloud is built on AFF and HCI, and then of course NetApp storage, we already talked about it, is available on all the different clouds. From a user experience perspective, right? The users come to our central self-service portal. We have invested the time in making our own portal. Idea is now our users don't have to worry about all the portals how to consume stuff from private cloud or Amazon Azure. It's the same self-service portal they have. They can go to irrespective of the service or the cloud what they're trying to consume. They can pick an item from our catalog and get it delivered in any of these clouds based on how the automation and workflow rules are defined, right? And this also is kind of, we have done some innovation here to say, what is the best of clouds do offer? So if there's an AI ML service, GCP would be preferred for that catalog item. Or if there is a plain infrastructure as a service, it could be Amazon or private cloud. Depending on what catalog item is selected, IT has decided this is the right technology. Either we build it through our catalog, or we just expose a service directly from one of these cloud providers, which is best of breed. and leverage that for all those use cases. So idea is it truly lets you use the cloud on your terms and expose the best of catalog items you have to our customers in terms of whether you want to build that service or you just want to bypass the best of the service which is out there. And then the last but not the least is the Cloud One platform. So ultimately it gets delivered on platform. Our definition of Cloud One is not just private data center, right? So if you see, it's now expanded to all different kinds of clouds. And anywhere we get the resources which are software defined at the price point we get are all game for using as resources within the Cloud One environment.
Hey, Kamal, you got a question in group chat from
Awesome.
King.
I like questions. I can take pause. Let's see. So where is my chat?
So using NKS or another K8s destroy cloud management.
Oh,
I'll let you read it.
Using NKS or another Kubernetes distros, cloud managed Kubernetes. Yeah. So we are right now in private cloud when we use CAS as well as DevOps. We are using OpenShift today, and we are also in the process of looking for what the alternative for that is, right? Because definitely there is, Kubernetes have come a long way since it started. Now native Kubernetes make more sense. And currently we are looking at a couple of companies when it comes to Rancher or Anthos and Nirmata. Those are three we are looking for. And by end of this year, we will be moving away from OpenShift to one of those platforms. That's the plan. All right, hopefully that answers. If not, then have a follow-up if needed. Thanks, Dave. That'll be awesome if you can let me know. All right, so yeah, so for today's discussion, we will primarily be focusing on DevOps. And the key goal for DevOps service is to remove all the distractions out of developers' life. And in this environment, we really want them to focus on the application architecture and writing code. All the tools, processes, and automation, whatever developers need, we want to provide that out of the Cloud One platform. And we will see in upcoming slide how we have built, what kind of tools and technologies and other things we have used to deliver that kind of experience. So what are just to summarize, right? What are the guiding principles we are after in this journey? And this is more applicable not just to DevOps but the entire platform, right? So if you have to take key takeaways, right? 4 is in IT in general, we are in a path to what we call as go and deliver everything as a service. So any service, it could be a software or a laptop or just a simple VM or all the way to a DevOps a CI or CD pipeline. We want to deliver that as a service to our end customers, where they can come to our self-service portal, consume that service on an on-demand and a self-service manner. And when they're done, even not only consume, but decommission or remove that service in the same manner, right? That's one of the principles we have in our journey. Second, cloud first strategy. And as you saw, we're not talking just about moving everything to the public cloud. When we say cloud first, we mean adopting a cloud type model where we used the combinations of everything SaaS, private cloud, public cloud to the best of our advantage, and then place the right workloads for right type of solution. So we talked about all our common business processes. Now our strategy is to go align them to SaaS. All the innovative strategic apps we want to build with microservices and DevOps in a cloud type manner where everything is elastic, metered, pay as you go. So what we mean by cloud first is more of a cloud operating model for any thing we want to do new or we want to lifecycle manage. Cloud first is our strategy. It's built in security. We all know what are the implications we keep hearing in news. If you don't have, if you miss up on security, what kind of issues you can run into. But the whole approach here is provide security built into the platform, whether it's infrastructure as service, make sure the VMs and the images we have is hardened to the level we are supposed to. If it's CI/CD pipelines, make sure we have in those pipelines security checks for code and vulnerability checking as a step. So as soon as a developer submits or downloads a code, if there's a malware with it, it gets flagged up in terms of what stacks to be used, what kind of images we build, what kind of security firewall rules we put when automated workloads are deployed in different cloud providers, what kind of best practices in terms of Amazon and Azure, let's say locking your S3 buckets or whatnot, are put into place through the automation. So security is not an afterthought. And the reason is, the earlier you fix any security issues, you have less cost and impact on your business, right? So, or once you have released something or it's in production, it's much harder to fix, or even worse, if somebody explores it or and causes you damage, even worse, right? So the idea of built-in security is finding those issues much earlier in the cycle and then fixing it right up there before it becomes into its nightmare. And last but not least is developer, right? These are the guys who are really delivering value to your business. So make sure their time is only invested in coding. They're not really running after QA teams or tools, getting up tools or getting up infrastructure or talking to security architects to get the applications approved. Make sure all of those is covered and delivered by the platform, and all those distractions are removed out of their daily life, and they can just focus on writing code and delivering value to the business, which is essentially what business wants them to do, right? And they love doing it too. But idea is, if we used to look the environments which are not before Cloud One, or they're in different environments, 80% of developer time goes in chasing different teams versus delivering functionality and features. So developer productivity is what we are after. So just to make sure, right, these are the principles we are trying to achieve, and making sure that as and we make changes or add things into our service, we don't break any of these, and keep aligning to this as much as we can. All right, so how do you build a Cloud One platform like that, right? So if I look at, this is the slide from Cloud Native Foundation, and these are all the modern tools and technologies available for you to build DevOps platform. And it's kind of overwhelming, right? NetApp's kind of right here, if you can see my cursor moving, and there's a bunch of other companies here, right? So, but idea is, we kind of take a different approach in this stuff, right? We instead of thinking about what technology you need, when we started thinking with what are the capabilities we want to be delivering to our developers. What do they need, and start with those as in mind, and then choose what's the right technology for those capabilities to be delivered. So this was just, there was no intention to cover the entire of this, but just to say it can be quite overwhelming, and there's a lot of churn and even new. This is again from last year. So if I look at this year's slide, it won't even fit in this screen. So when it comes to capabilities, right? So we think there are 6 core capabilities in this environment, and that's how we have built our platform. And we'll cover some of those as how a DevOps cycle looks like, right? So when we say of DevOps is all about code, right? It starts with code. So from a platform perspective, the very first thing, a capability the platform should provide is, how are we going to manage that code? Where are we going to save that code? How are multiple developers going to make changes in that code? How are they going to collaborate without stepping on each other? How would we save different versions of the code? What would be a branching strategy? What would be a versioning strategy? Version 1.0, 1.2, 1.3, right? So all of those, and how would you track a change was made by which developer for which user story or which feature? So if you have to roll back, you can go between versions, or you can just exactly remove the line of code which was written for that one particular bug or feature. So this is your foundation, right? The more robust you have this environment, the more capabilities you can deliver in terms of doing multiple A and B type releases or canary type releases when it comes to when it comes to DevOps advanced delivery. You can also do rollbacks and roll forwards, either the complete major version or even just a small bug feature. So yeah, the platform needs to provide a robust code and binary management system as the base, right? Now, once you have the code, this code needs to make its journey from dev to stage to production. And idea is it has to do that in an automated way, right? So you need to have automated workflows, or commonly called as DevOps pipelines, which will take this code and do all the steps which are needed for code to make that journey and ultimately release them in production. And idea is, and that's all about what I was talking in terms of automation, right? How automated that process can be, and how defect-free your releases would be. This is all about DevOps pipeline. So the next set of capability your platform needs to provide is the CI/CD tools and the pipelines, which will take that code. So essentially, the couple we use in is Jenkins and Azure DevOps. These are the tools which will be constantly looking into your code and binary management system. As soon as there is a new code detected, the pipeline automatically kicks off. No human intervention needed, right? They would take the code, run through all the steps which are part of the pipeline, and at the end of the pipeline, the code either makes it to the next level. So if it was dev, it goes to stage, or if it's a complete pipeline, it goes all the way to production. Or you send a notification back to the developer saying, whoever made that change, that hey, your code didn't make it through and it failed because of this reason. So developer can start writing that code again without any human intervention. So things like as Azure DevOps and other things come into play, and part of the platform, we give this to our developers as soon as they get onboarded in our environment. The tools and the pipelines are already delivered to them. Also the backend automation, right? So let's say that when the pipeline goes, one of the steps could be take the code, fire up a new infrastructure, and run some test against it. So if you have to fire up a new infrastructure, the automation which needed behind the scenes is also provided as part of the platform. So Ansible, if you're using VMs or infrastructure type services, Helm charts, if you're using Kubernetes and container type workloads, depending on which technology you use, the platform also provides all the backend automation which is needed by needed for those pipelines as part of the package as well. So our developers don't have to worry about writing those code as well. Even NetApp has heavily invested in Ansible modules. So if one of the pipeline steps is to fire up a volume so you can run a database on it, we really don't have to call any of our storage admins. Ansible would make direct calls to NetApp technology and get that delivered as part of the automation needed by the pipeline. Third capability is quality tools, right? This is essentially one of the key principles if we talk about DevOps is finding faults and finding them fast. So fail fast, right? So how do you constantly looking for security or functionality issues in the process and flagging them right up front and not too late in the game when you're ready to release or when you're after release, right? So one of the steps in the CI/CD pipeline could be the code is written, run a security scan against the code to find out if there is any malware or known issues or library downloaded from a vendor, if there are any concerns with it, right? And as soon as that is flagged, let the developer know that, hey, you have an open issue and it's okay for now when you are in development stage, but we will enforce a policy on that code. If that's not fixed, I won't make it to stage or even to production, depending on what type of issue was found, right? So including those quality tools in the CI/CD process also gets you the fail fast and finding those security and functionality issues much faster than later. The next capability over here is the platform itself. This is our Cloud One platform, right? So ultimately, all of those DevOps pipelines, either it's for development or stage or production, you need some infrastructure to run on. And for us, that's our Cloud One platform itself. And the key part over here is the infrastructure over here is all software defined. It's consumed through automation tools using APIs. It provides modern stacks like containers and microservices, so you can build cloud-aware type applications. And it gives you the best of cloud choices, which are available for our developers to use across different clouds. And last but not least, capability is observability, right? These are your eyes and ears into the tools, into the platform. So essentially, as the code is flowing through different processes, observability tools would find out if the change you made or the release you're trying to make meets the mark or not. And there are key metrics and KPIs defined, which will serve as feedback loop back to the developer to say how you can go and fix the issues which are not working or optimize them to the next level and start the new DevOps cycle and things like those. So in terms of our capabilities, these are the 6 we think are needed by our developers. And idea is not to get overwhelmed by the slide we saw before, but give them choices, right? Not the choices in terms of hundreds of options over here. So if our developers had a go on the previous slide, and if you have, let's say, I don't know, 100 application teams, they would come up with their own tools and processes and technology which they want to use for DevOps. While I like flexibility, but if you have to put any governance or processes around it, right? How do you do security scans? How do you do change management? How do you do release management? How do you do tracking and notifications? It would be a nightmare across all of them, right? So if in IT, our approach is provide all of those as a service to our customers with all those governance and other process built around it, and have a couple of choices in there, if not 5, at least 2 in all of those categories, which will fit most of our developer use cases. So that helps you put that helps you operationalize it much easier than trying to deal with technology or tool sprawl, which can happen if you just go have your developers have a go at the previous slide. All right, any questions? I'll take a pause here. Cool. All right, let's go. So in Cloud One, right, idea is we kind of break our user experience by a couple of days, right? Day 1 and day 2. Even though all the stuff we talked about in the previous slide is quite a lot, but the good part is it's all fully end-to-end automated from our developers' perspective. With few clicks of a button on our self-service portal, they can get the entire capabilities landscapes in terms of version management system and pipelines and automation scripts and all the scans they need, even the VPCs or namespaces created in OpenShift environment or in Amazon, whatever are needed for their use cases. We call them workspaces or host spaces, delivered to them with full end-to-end integration, as well as permissions and authorizations all set up in 15 minutes, right? So if you have legacy environment and you're trying to do DevOps, this itself would take you months, if not weeks. And here they are ready to start doing DevOps within 15 minutes in this environment. Only thing they have to now bring is the code. And once they have the code, essentially, they have the environment ready for them to start using. And that's essentially our day 2, right? Day 2, as long as they make a code change, the pipeline will automatically kick off from dev to stage to production, and finally get that application released in production, ideally without human intervention end-to-end. Some of the applications can do this today end-to-end, and some applications have to go step by step. They can go only up to the CI stage or CD stage, depending on how much of a test automation they have done, what kind of technologies they are dealing with, and what kind of delivery times or SLAs they have, right? Depending on that, they are trying to make the right investments in terms of how much effort or value we want to get out of DevOps, and that means how much of an automation we have to do. if you look from the perspective of things over here, right? So other thing we are doing in this environment, we use a lot of public cloud for any temporary type workload, right? Dev, QA, test, DR. In our strategy, we are using public clouds for those. Even though we show Amazon, it could be any cloud. But idea over here is we really don't want to deal with temporary capacity type management in our environment. So if you want to run a new development environment, you wrote a code and you want to bring up an environment to test your code against, we just rent the equipment from Amazon for that few hours or days or weeks of the time. Once the development stage is completed, these are ephemeral environments. We just delete them because now we have the capacity. It's all stateless, right? You have the code in your version management. You have the automation script to build this environment within 15 minutes. So you really don't have to have a development environment which runs all year long and gets used only 1/3 or 1/5 of the time, right? And in previous deployments, we would have app teams which would have 5 or 6 development environments for different reasons for different teams, and they will run it for all year long. But by doing this kind of automation and using public cloud, we're completely able to remove that dead weight from our data centers and just not worry about those depreciation and other cycles we have to do for maintaining that hardware. Just rent it for the days and amount of time we need it. For something which is more 24/7 running or production, if it's the right tools or technology selected, private cloud makes more sense. So we really don't have to worry about really high cost or bills in running in this environment. Also, if you look at the other point I want to make, from day 2 onwards, developers don't even need to come to our Cloud One platform, right? The tools like Azure DevOps or Jenkins, where they're really used to working on, they can pretty much control the entire pipeline or delivery of code from that tool. So they would write a user story, they would submit a code change, and as soon as the code change is submitted, the pipeline take care of all the stuff. At any point, if the pipeline fails or succeeds, they get a notification right in the Azure DevOps tool. So this is the tool which our developers are really friendly or familiar using it, and everything they want to do in their entire process is now integrated in the tool. So it kinds of abstracts the complete infrastructure or the clouds or the technologies we have. Even the processes, for most part, right? Security and governance and change are completely removed, and they just have to from day 2 onward, they just have to work from the tools what they're been using forever. Yeah, I don't talk much about the NetApp product. This is the only slide where we have just to show what NetApp technologies are in play here. For all our code and container binary management, we use object storage, which is our storage grid solution. Oops. That's where all the binaries and images live. In NetApp, in Amazon or public clouds, we use the cloud volume service, essentially for all our storage. The public cloud for us is built on NetApp HCI and all flash FAS. And I don't know if you have heard about Trident. This is essentially an open source, fully managed offering by NetApp. Which will help you bring enterprise grade storage even now to your Kubernetes type environment, right? So essentially, Trident is kind of a plugin which sits along with OpenShift, and if there is any persistence volume claim done by OpenShift environment, those could be routed and managed for a NetApp technology, either on-prem or in public cloud, leveraging Trident. And even though when we say open source, he still is fully supported and fully supported. Sorry, I used the word fully supported. You can call NetApp and say, hey, I have a problem with it, and help desk would help you support that. So just behind the scenes, what technologies are playing in here. All right, I think that's quite. Any questions? Let me see.
Hi, Kamal. There's a question by Tim on the chat. Is Cloud Insights doing governance around cost containment and adherence to policies?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of areas where definitely Cloud Insight is part of when it comes to, we use heavily on the storage side. So all the NetApp storage, Cloud Insight is our choice of, our tool of choice for metering what kind of storage consumptions you're running into. It's also heavily used in a lot of infrastructure as a space area. But there are quite a few tools when it comes to having an overall governance policy, right? How do you manage container utilization? Because a lot of time, those containers running in the VMs in OpenShift environments, they have very flexible scale up and scale down model. And how do you charge your customers based on what those resources are being consumed? So we have other tools into play as well when it comes to complete governance. But yeah, Cloud Insight primarily used for all the metering and measuring of NetApp storage technology today, yes. All right, so with that said, right, so is it done? Are we done yet? So essentially what we call DevOps, right, in an environment is like a train which is rolling down never-ending track, right? So that's the metaphor we use. And what do we mean by that is like, if we are moving down the track, we would keep adding more cars to our train, which could be in terms of the functionality and features we added, infrastructure as service, platform as service, AI, ML. Those are all the cars we are adding, and the passengers which keep coming in are kind of the applications which want to consume those services, right? So DevOps for us is never a destination, and in fact, it's true for everyone. So if you're doing DevOps, it's all about how do you build a culture and mindset of continuous improvement, right? So am I able to do CI, which is continuous integration, or am I able to do CD, continuous deployment? And even if I'm able to do CI, CD both, are the KPIs and metrics really good, right? Am I able to release instead of weekly, can I do daily or hourly? Is my defect ratio, I used to have 1 defect or 5 defect, can I lower it to 2 or 1? So it's all about that mindset, right? How do you go to the next level while the train is constantly moving and you are making all these changes? So change is a constant. So one mindset you have to have, when we saw the technology 6 capability slide, we didn't start with all of those capabilities. They kept getting changed or added, removed in and out of the environment as they made sense. And it's a constantly evolving environment, right? So you change, you have to set yourself up in a way that change is not looked as really hard, or you're not, it's not easy, it's not hard to make a change. But at the same time, you're able to release features and functionality what your business and developers need at the speed what they need, right? So in this journey, what we say is there's never going to be a point where we say we are all done, but idea is it keeps running down the track. But with that said, right, so how do you measure where you are in terms of your maturity, right? So we have a 5-level model we use internal to NetApp IT, and those are the levels we see over here. And they're all about, actually 2 ways to look at it before I say about what they are. So 2 ways to look at it is that there's what are the capabilities we can deliver from the Cloud One platform perspective. So today, we say our Cloud One platform is at level 4, and we are able to deliver all the capabilities what level 4 can deliver. And the second is, from an application perspective, is your application able to leverage all the capabilities we can provide? Are you at level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, right? And these are all about how fast, the levels are all about how fast can you release the code in production, how automated your software development lifecycle is, and how defect-free your releases are. So those are the metrics and KPIs we use over here, right? and there's no one level which fits all the applications. So if you have an application which really is releasing features once in 1 year or 3 years or higher, it's okay for them to be at level 2, right? But if you are an application which are like our support site or Netflix or Amazon's, you really want to be at level 5, where ideally all of your process end to end is fully automated and there's no human intervention, and you're kind of constantly in the way of optimizing and shrinking your numbers, right? In terms of release velocity, in terms of error rates, in terms of time it takes to get the value delivered, and things like those, right? So you are kind of at the level 5 level. So I'll try to quickly touch upon what do we mean by these levels, right? So at level 1, everything is manual. You're doing big and heavy, risky releases, maybe once a quarter or higher. There's not much repeatability and predictability, right, in the release. So everything is like the whole waterfall model, where we make all the developers submit their changes, we make a big release. If something doesn't work, we do a painful rollback, and we start the process all over again. And this is okay if your app is once in a 3 year or 2 years releasing something. But at level 2, now you are in DevOps. You can do your pipeline is automated up to the development stage, right? When we say the development, it's about you are able to do continuous integration, CI space. And you're in the CI, what you need is you're able to do unit testing, functionality testing. You're able to do code and security scans, and multiple developers can come and make changes at the same time. And at the same time, test plans are running and they are merging into your code in the release branch. They're still not releasing on the automated way, but they're ready for a release. And now at level 3, you're also not only able to do CI, the development stage, you're able to do your staging stage as well, right? So you're able to do automated UATs and LNPs in addition to unit and functional testing, what you were doing over here. And you're able to deliver that artifact, which can be pushed into production. It's ready to be going production, but you don't have the processes in terms of release management, change management, and all the validations and rollbacks once it's put into production, right? There's a lot of process and technology which will be needed from going to level 3 to level 4. Now, if you have all those processes integrated into your life cycle, once the code is released in production, you have automated verifications in terms of whether the new code made the mark or not, or do we need to roll back? And if it didn't make the mark, you have tools which will do an automated rollback for you. So now you are at level 4, right? If you are there. And now if you have completely automated your end-to-end CI/CD pipeline, level 5 is all about having the KPIs and metrics we talked about, and getting to the next level of optimization. So Amazon's and Netflix we talked about, right? They release thousands of lines of code in production every hour. There's no way you could have any human involved in any of those processes. And even without humans, you still need a lot of optimization of your stack in terms of hourly or minutes or weekly changes to get those in there. So that's what we call as optimized. And from Cloud One platform perspective, we are at a level 4. We have at least 2 or 3 of our apps which are already at this level, and then a lot of them are making their journey, right? So that's why we like to use the word it's a journey, and we have 400 applications, and they all will work through their cycles to make through this. And as a platform, we are going to continuously evolve the platform capabilities. At the same time, we will make sure our application also are climbing up the ladder as it makes sense for the business. All right, I think that brings it to the end. I'll try to quickly wrap up with the key takeaways we have in here, right? So we talked about speed is the number one reason you want to do DevOps, but that is not at the expense of quality or risk, right? It's not an or game. It's and game, at least in our mind. You need to have a strategy in terms of why you are doing DevOps, where you want to do DevOps. And as we saw, it's quite an involved process, right? It's not natural. It won't happen by itself. You have to make sure you have the tools, processes, technology, automation, all of that in place. So where do you want to invest that money, and which applications are key for you to get that value out of that investment, right? So if you remember our buy versus build strategy, a lot of our applications are already on SaaS. We really don't have to worry about DevOps with those. But the ones which are innovative and strategic, and that's where our focus is for DevOps. Otherwise, a lot of time we would see app teams, depending on if they have skills, they would like to do DevOps for their environment, but it might more not give you the value what you're looking for. It might just be a science project, right? So have everything start with the strategy. And this is all a new operating model, right? So I talked about we are more of a service provider internal, right? So how are we delivering everything as a service? Being an internal service provider, managing each of that service we deliver as a product, right? So we are transitioning all our technology delivery teams from technology owners to product owners. We need to think like how we are product owners in a company. And every catalog item we have over there in our catalog, we have a product owner assigned to it, which is working day in, day out to say, how do I improve the efficiency of my product? So for day one, they won't start with, let's say, a chargeback. So day two, they would also have chargeback included in the product, or they won't have a feature to say how it can be elastically. If you started with 2 VM, now I want to change, I can go to 4 VM. Those kind of features is what each of our product owners maintain, and they have a quarterly roadmap of saying, yeah, here's how the different capabilities and features we're going to deliver in this platform moving forward. So moving away from what we used to be technology delivery, working in silos, using a lot of tickets, to now completely self-service model, and your interaction to your customers is directly through that automation and self-service portal versus trying to work the old way, right? So adopting the new technology model. And then again, we just talked about DevOps is a journey, not a destination. So you need to have, in this journey, you need to have the mindset of constant changes, constant improvement. And then, yeah, it's just a new way of IT. Think of it as a DNA versus a destination or a project we want to finish, right? This has to be built into your culture, a continuous improvement, a mindset of continuous improvement and culture throughout your organization. So I think that brings to the end of the slide deck. We have about 5 minutes for Q&A. I've put together some of the be in touch type contacts. The one I want to point out is netappit.com. We have a lot of user stories like DevOps, how do we do OCIs, or how do we do storage grid, hybrid cloud, infrastructure as service. All of those are up there. So take a time to look through it. And if you have to reach out on Twitter or email, feel free to use those handles and addresses. So with that, I would say thank you, and then open it up for any questions you guys would have today.
Yeah, hi everyone. I mean, if you have any questions, please you can ask Kamal directly or post them on the chat. I
have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you.
So what? And by the way, excellent presentation, and thank you for the way that you laid everything out. Very interested to hear about the tools and the processes and so on. If one of your apps goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Is that scenario we usually hear about? Who's getting paged? Is the developer getting paged, or is the operator getting paged? Kind of what I'm getting at is where the kind of the functions come together within NetApp.
Yeah, and I think we have, and that's a journey and evolution too, depending on what app it is, right? So some app, not only in terms of technology, but also in terms of processes, they are a little bit ahead, right? So I don't know if you've heard of processes like, or at least org models like no ops, right? Where you build it, you support it end to end. And if you are more at level 5, you would see yourself doing more of those, right? Where essentially developer team is responsible for operations of their apps too. But then there are also centralized help desks where you would go to, and most of our apps go to centralized help desk today. That's what we would be getting paid, and we have the resources there. But then what we are also striving to go to, and it takes time, right? How the org part is usually a little bit of work and reasons, and once you are at maturity level that, then you realize this process is not good enough. Now we need to make next level of optimization here in terms of, yeah, make ops part of dev team, and you have completely no ops, and as soon as it breaks, you fix it, you manage it, and then you go with it. A lot of time you have the intelligence in the app to say why even break, right? Like it's immutable. You bring up the infrastructure in a parallel cloud provider, either through DR or whatnot, or just bring up that same containers all over again if it's truly stateless. So you won't get paged that often. But now even if you do it, then still the responsibility will be on the dev side for very high up the graph type apps. Does that make sense?
Thank you. It does, yeah, completely. Thank you.
No problem. All right, any other questions?
That's it. I think that's it. Kamal, there's somebody said excellent presentation. Thanks. Please share it.
Yeah, I'll send it out to you, and then we can shoot out to email for everyone. And once again, thank you guys for joining today. Stay safe, stay well, and yep, we'll send this out once we end over here.